Was there a Palestine during the 19th century? Claims of a historical Palestine that persists through time as a legitimate nation has been falsified. There was never a historical country called Palestine with a set of distinct nationality, culture, language, etc., that sets it apart from its Arab neighbors. Fact is, Palestinians were Arabs that migrated to Israel to share with its economic growth and development brought about by the Jews. Yes, Jews progressively arrived to Israel when it was yet desolate, as other claims presented. And as boost in economy developed, Arabs from neighboring countries saw it as an opportunity for financial assets, migrated to it, thereby forming a mixed community of Arabs and Jews. Later, there was land conflict and a partition plan was developed, but Arabs rejected it. British rule in 1948 gave the land to Jews, resulting to war. The territory expanded after the ensuing wars and has finally come to its present boundary. An excerpt from the news. Before the Balfour Promise, when the Ottoman rule, 1517 to 1917, ended, Palestine's political borders as we know them today did not exist, and there was nothing called a Palestinian people with a political identity as we know today, historian Abd al-Ghani admitted on official PA-TV on November 1. Since Palestine's lines of administrative division stretched from east to west and included Jordan and southern Lebanon, and like all peoples of the region, the Palestinians were liberated from the Turkish rule and immediately moved to colonial rule, without forming a Palestinian people's political identity. In 1917, says this Arab historian on official PA-TV, there was no such thing as a Palestinian people. This statement amounts to saying that the whole narrative of an indigenous Palestinian people was made up at a later point in time. Unquote. Many prominent figures in history claimed there was no country called Palestine. There was no distinct nationality, culture or language that could distinguish it as a heritage from ancestry. And by saying ancestry, it could be from a timetable in a long duration, but can we say there was a long duration of time when Palestine as a country must have existed, say 500 years? Testimonies of witnesses as far as 1870 has disproven this. In 1835, French poet Alphonse de Lamartine visited Palestine. He wrote, "Outside the gates of Jerusalem, we saw indeed no living object, heard no living sound. We found the same void, the same silence, as we should have expected before the entombed gates of Pompeii. A complete, eternal silence reigns in the town, on the highways, in the country, the tomb of an entire people." Recollections of the East, Volume 1, 1845. Famous American author Mark Twain visited Palestine in 1867. He described his visit in Innocents Abroad. There was hardly a tree or a shrub anywhere. Even the olive and the cactus, those fast friends of a worthless soil, had almost deserted the country. A desolation is here that not even imagination can grace with the pomp of life and action. We reached Tabor safely. We never saw a human being on the whole route. Charles Warren, a British archaeologist and researcher who did extensive research in Jerusalem, wrote in the year 1870, "The land of Israel is bound up in the chains of its curse which hangs over it. The land has no redeemer, and it is a wasteland with no one to cultivate it or care for it." So with these testimonies, we could make a logical inference that prior to 1835 to 1870 there was no country called Palestine. It was yet desolate. So if you say that Palestine is an ancestral heritage, when was it established as a country? It could only be after 1870. And if Israel was established in 1948, then within 1870 to 1948 must have been the perceivable timetable that Palestine must have been a country, but was that historical? This was the time when British rule has authority over the land, so to say that a country called Palestine existed is quite propaganda, as historically there was never a recognition for a country called Palestine to have been born within 1870 to 1948. But even if there was, it was not an ancestral land for Arabs.